So Graham Potter is officially the new manager of West Ham United, but who in his current squad should he sell? Who should he keep? Who should he loan? And whose contract should he let run out? Before we get into it, what do we think of the appointment? I want to hear from you guys at home. It's a very interesting shout, isn't it? I think the treatment of Julian Lopetegui over the last 7 days has left a little bit to be desired. But let's focus on Graham Potter, and particularly that last season at Brighton. I think that was the peak we've seen from Graham Potter and how he wants his teams to play football when Brighton finished 9th, which was a club record position. So how did he play and how is it going to suit this West Ham side? Well, in that final season at Brighton, 3 formations were consistently used. And to be honest with you, the most predominant of which were 3 at the back hybrid systems, a 3-5-2, a 3-4-3. Occasionally he used the 4-2-3-1, but he was pretty fluid with how he wanted his team to play. What was very clear is he wanted steady build-up, a very high defensive line, lots of possession, and they did score a lot of goals. He also had a really good record, didn't he, of signing players and improving players that were joining the league for the first time or were pretty unknown in the Premier League. Leandro Trossard, Moises Caicedo, Alexis McAllister, Marc Cucurella all got miles better under Graham Potter. So can he transplant that improvement to West Ham? Well, if you take his Brighton days, there's certainly massive positives. But his Chelsea days, I still think linger a little bit like a dark cloud over his head. We can have a look at the variation in formations he used at Chelsea comparatively to his last season at Brighton. Much more varied. 3 at the back systems, 4 at the back systems, diamond midfields, 4-2-3-1s, 2 up tops, 1 up tops. Lots of change, and I think that's going to be crucial for how he works at West Ham, is to get a more settled style of play than he was able to implement at Chelsea. Another good example really is that he used the second highest amount of players of any Premier League side at Chelsea, behind only Nottingham Forest. The amount of changes he was making week to week was incredible. Look, we're talking 7 and 8 changes per game week sometimes, regularly in the 5 to 6 category. That can't happen at West Ham. It is a thinner squad, and I think that will probably actually help him because he won't have as much pressure to play big names and star players. Here, he can go in with a smaller, more condensed squad and try and improve players like he did at Brighton with those smaller names. So come on then, let's have a look at the squad. The first thing that pops off the page is really the average age. The highest average age squad in the Premier League by quite some distance, actually, averaging 28.7 years old, much older than, Manchester City, who have been much derided recently for the age of their squad. I think the second oldest is Fulham, nearly a full year behind West Ham's average age. Even their average starting 11 age this season is over the age of 28. So there is going to have to be some chopping and changing over the next couple of summers. There are also players out of contract. Take, for instance, Lucas Fabianski, who has been pretty exceptional for West Ham this campaign. Much loved by West Ham fans, of course, and rightly so. The best post-shot expected goals, the most goals prevented in the entire Premier League, both as a big number and per 90. So in an ideal world, you would say keep him. But he's 40 years old and he's out of contract in the summer. If we're honest, it's probably going to be a contract exit at 40. So what about Alphonse Areola? He's effectively split minutes with Lucas Fabianski. They've both started about 10 games. Well, when we talk about Fabianski being the best post-shot expected goalkeeper in the Premier League, Alphonse Areola is arguably, in fact statistically, the worst. 25 out of the 25 used goalkeepers, he is bottom of the pile, letting in nearly 0.5 expected goals more than he should per game. When we talk about Areola and Fabianski as well, it's vital for a Graham Potter goalkeeper to be exceptional with their feet. It really is. When he first arrived at Brighton, he had Matt Ryan there. Final season under Chris Hughton, they were averaging 94% of their goal kicks long, direct. That was the highest percentage in the Premier League. It dropped to the lowest percentage under Graham Potter. They had to totally replace the goalkeeper eventually. Robert Sanchez came in. I think West Ham will look to sign a goalkeeper that can play with his feet. And I think there are serious arguments that potentially you look to sell Alphonse Areola, look to bring 2 new goalkeepers. Wes Foderingham gets kept. He only came in the summer on a 2-year contract after that free signing once he left Sheffield United. Let's go to right back, where you've got Vladimir Coufal, who was a definite favourite under David Moyes. Started 36 games last season, but since the arrival of Aaron Wan-Bissaka, has started just 6 games. He's also out of contract in the summer. They triggered an extension last year. Again, I think that will probably be a contract exit. It feels very much like, given his age and the emergence of Aaron Wan-Bissaka, I would struggle to see how Coufal sits into a Graham Potter 3 at the back system, maybe a 4 at the back system. As for Aaron Wan-Bissaka, for me, he's been their best signing so far this season. He started 17 games, he scored 2 goals, still excellent in 1v1 situations defensively. And what we're really going to see throughout this video, in my opinion, is a little bit of a struggle with judging players so far this season. Because Lopetegui has been so bad that a lot of these players, it feels almost unfair to judge. But Aaron Wan-Bissaka has been good. He's a nailed-on keep. Let's go to Naif Aguerd, who is on loan at Sociedad, keeping clean sheets. I mean, he's under contract till 2027, and he's still only 28 years old. Is there a chance you could bring him back and Graham Potter can get something out of him, particularly if he's going to play a back 3 system? On the surface of it, though, it looks like he's gone, doesn't it? It looks like Aguerd is sold. I don't see instinctively him coming back to West Ham now. Max Kilman is going to be a keep because he's also signed in the summer. I feel like Max Kilman really splits opinion, not just amongst West Ham fans, but amongst football fans in general. Because look, he's been West Ham's most used player, and there's definitely been bright spells and bright sparks. But there have also been moments where I think West Ham fans have been very critical of Kilman, particularly to do with his fee. £40 million is a big amount of money, and I think that has dogged him a little bit amongst the West Ham fan base. Now, I do think Graham Potter's really going to like Max Kilman. Could he play a similar role to Lewis Dunk? Lewis Dunk, not the most mobile, but excellent long-range and short-range passing. Max Kilman has put up the 5th most completed passes over 50 yards of any player in the Premier League. He is good on the ball. I think we could see Lewis Dunk-style stuff from Max Kilman under Graham Potter. Mavropanos really came to the fore under Julian Lopetegui. He started 13 Premier League games this season. He only started 16 in the entirety of last campaign. He's played more minutes than Todibo by some distance. But having said that, West Ham fans, I'm interested to hear what you think. Do you think he's good enough for West Ham? Can he play in this Graham Potter system? For me, there's question marks here. I'm edging towards sell. Jean-Claire Todibo is going to have to be signed. That is, of course, a loan with an obligation. He's still just 25 years old, and he was obviously at war with Julian Lopetegui. There were reports that they were nearly coming to blows in the changing room at half-time. He's going to get far more game time under Graham Potter. Not really been given enough opportunity, in my opinion. He has had some pretty dodgy moments, but it's hard to get into a rhythm when you're not being consistently selected. And to be honest with you, like Wan-Bissaka, like some of these other signings, I found it really hard to judge Jean-Claire Todibo because of the way Lopetegui was playing football. New birth under Potter, I think he'll be vital to his system. Kurt Zouma is a sell anyway. I think that's a mandatory buy clause within that loan. Cresswell is out of contract in the summer. He's also 35 years old. I think last summer they triggered the 1-year activation for an extra year. I would expect that contract to run out in the summer. At left back, you've got Emerson, who is actually 30 years old. I'm leaning towards keep because you've let Cresswell go on a contract exit. You'd have no left-sided defenders, really, and he does offer the option of being better as a wing-back, potentially. Could he be a player that thrives under Graham Potter if he chooses to play a 3-back system, or at least some version of a hybrid defence where left-backs can become left wing-backs? If that's the case, Emerson might well suit it, particularly as a backup player. 31 next season and out of contract in 2026. So you've really got to try and agree an extension, or maybe you end up selling him. But for now, I think just because of the lack of cover, he might end up being a keep. Into the midfield we go, and I would still describe this as having age issues. Thomas Soucek now is 29 years old, and he's under contract till 2027. The one thing I'll say about Soucek is he is a really good alternate option. I don't think he should be a starter necessarily in a Graham Potter system that is absolutely thriving, playing a really high press, which we also see him operate with at Brighton. But when you need a goal, coming off the bench, could Soucek have an impact? I don't think he's got a particularly high sell-on fee. For me, he is probably a smart player just to keep. almost like when Man United used to bring on Marouane Fellaini. He can have impacts from set pieces and can be dangerous in those situations to mix up a game plan. But this midfield does have issues on the ball. If you're keeping Thomas Soucek, who is in the bottom 10% of European central midfielders for passes, passing accuracy, progressive passes, progressive carries, then other players really have to be excellent on the ball. So let's answer that question. Who is excellent on the ball? Is it Guido Rodriguez, who himself is 30 years old? He was bought under contract till 2027 in the summer. And this one, there's a few alarm bells ringing. Now, first and foremost, he started 12 Premier League games. But in that time, in the Premier League, bottom 5% for progressive passes, progressive carries, take-ons, touches, bottom 30% for passes, passing accuracy. Again, I struggle to judge him too harshly because of the Lopetegui system, but where would he fit in a Graham Potter side who want to go out and dominate possession when on the ball he hasn't shown enough so far? He has to be kept, really, because he's only just joined. But West Ham fans, what do you think about Guido Rodriguez? I feel like he's a player I'm quite on the fence about. How about Edson Alvarez then? There was reports this morning linking him with a move to Monaco. Now, he's under contract till 2028. The one positive you've got here is he's effectively a youth player for West Ham. He's 27. By West Ham standards, that is young. He's so indisciplined. That is a problem. Too many yellow cards, too many fouls in silly areas. I'd keep as a backup. Honestly, I'd keep as a backup. Again, though, a lot of these players, I feel like we haven't seen the best of them because we haven't seen a good version of West Ham. So Edson Alvarez under Potter could easily become an absolutely vital player. He was really, really solid at Ajax. There's no reason Potter can't re-find his ball circulation that he had at Ajax, his ability off the ball, power and strength in the tackle, if he can just find a bit of form again. James Ward-Prowse is on loan at Nottingham Forest. He's also 30, another player that's aging. It feels a little bit like his time at West Ham has crept to an end. Interestingly, in the summer, I think Lopetegui kind of spoke to him and said, "You are going to be a key player for me." Then a couple of weeks later, he loaned him out. Bit of miscommunication there. I think it's potentially a player you can cash in on, James Ward-Prowse. He's out on loan. Let's look for younger options in the market. Carlos Soler, I think, has had some impressive moments. I'd probably keep him for now. It's a loan with an option to buy, isn't it? You can at least see what he's like over the next 4 months of this Premier League season. He might be a pretty fun player to watch under Potter because of his ability on the ball. Andy Irving, obviously a huge West Ham crowd favourite. He's only 24, and obviously he was bought in on a free contract, wasn't he? Let's get him alone. Let's see if we can get him some minutes, because so far this season, 69 minutes of Premier League football isn't enough. Lucas Paqueta, I still don't think he's at his best at the moment, but he's a definite keep. He still has the betting charges hanging over his head, but he's put up the second most chances created of any player in the squad and the second most tackles of any player in the squad. He's a versatile option that can play as a 10 or as an 8. Potter's going to enjoy him. I think Paqueta could be a big beneficiary of this new system. Bit of a problem that he's got an £85 million clause. Could a club like Liverpool look at him as a replacement for Mo Salah? Maybe. He's one of the best, if not the best ball carrier in the Premier League, by far and away the most dribbles completed of any player last season. He's electric when he's on it. I don't necessarily think he's been on it massively under Lopetegui. Hasn't put up anywhere near the numbers we were seeing last year, but again, I just think it's a problem with the system. He obviously had the disciplinary issue as well. Could he play up front under Potter? If he was to utilise some sort of false 9 system? Goal scoring was a big issue for Potter's Chelsea. It was also an issue in terms of XG. At Brighton, they put up a huge amount of chances but didn't take them. Could Kudus play slightly more advanced? That wouldn't surprise me either. Maxwell Cornet, that must be a sell. Surely he's under contract till 2027. I think he's only started 1 Premier League game for Southampton this season. Jarrod Bowen, obviously the main man. Maybe he'll get utilised as a 9. I could see a front three of Summerville, Bowen and Kudus operating under Graham Potter, be it in a 3-4-3 or some sort of hybrid formation like that. It's a shame he's out for a couple of months because his goal scoring numbers, particularly last season, were absolutely exceptional under David Moyes, particularly when he played through the middle. So maybe that's something Potter will look at. As for Crescencio Summerville, this is no doubt a keep. He's not got enough minutes either, has he? He's put up the 3rd most chances in the squad. He's not hit 1,000 Premier League minutes yet this season. You know, this is the Championship Player of the Year last year who put up a huge volume of goals and assists in an excellent Leeds side, and we've not seen it. He's only 21 years old. There's an allergy to giving young players a go at West Ham. Summerville has to get minutes under Potter, and that is one thing Potter does well. Bed in young players and improve 20 to 24-year-olds. Summerville will get a lot better under Potter. Luis Guilherme, I think alone, he's only played, 20-30 minutes of Premier League football. He's still only 18 years old. Let's see if we can get him a Championship loan. Danny Ings is out of contract. I would be a little bit surprised to see that get renewed. Just one start this season. He's not played over 1,000 minutes of Premier League football since 2021. Great bloke to have around the changing room. Really good personality. But I think West Ham will be looking for younger forwards going forward. As for Fullkrug, this signing looks really, really questionable now, doesn't it? 34 years old, signed for 27 million euros in the summer. Scored a couple of goals, but some of the interviews he's given to German media where he's talked about the signing being a disaster have really surprised me. He's had Achilles problems. It's not the first time in his career that's happened. And he's under contract, until 2028? I think if you can cash in, get some money for Fullkrug back now while he's still got a bit of reputation in Germany, it might be a smart idea. That leaves you with Michail Antonio, who is also out of contract. Probably a contract exit. Obviously, it's a really sad situation because he's had the car accident. Do West Ham give him a contract extension just because he's had these issues with his leg following the car accident, and maybe that allows him to rehab at the club? That's possible, and that would be a nice gesture, wouldn't it? But it also wouldn't surprise me to see it run out in the summer. So what that leaves is a pretty thin squad. Like, they have to sign some younger players, West Ham. They really do. A lot of the players at the club are over the age of 30. Obviously, they're not going to be this brutal, but would you be this brutal? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, hit subscribe. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.